Now, why should France be training terrorists in Mali? And why was Mali, a portion in Mali, not accessible to Malians themselves? And should Malian authorities at this point in time not put security as a priority?
I think that is what Assimi Goita has been struggling to do.
Because France was recently accused with evidence of training terrorists right inside Mali.
No, we know their foreign policies. Their foreign policy states that they will do whatever they have to do to exploit the most in Africa without considering any consequences that follows. This is very important for us to understand their foreign policies when it comes to Africa. That means that they are willing to do whatever they can do, whether it is to create instabilities as we have seen in Africa. I mean, cause all kinds of civil conflicts, which in all of these conflicts, they are well settled, because the more we divide, the more we fight, the more they take advantage of that disunity. And this is very important for us to understand. You know, some Africans are expecting us to be civilized slaves or to settle for something lesser. That's not what we want. We want full political rights. We want to be able to be in charge of Africa. We want an Africa that is going to live with the rest of the world by living together, by living apart. This is very important. We cannot go down this road where we are in Africa. You have the whole chunk of the bulldozer, the bulldozer of the UN National Security Council in Africa. The whole West is in Africa. You turn around in Mali, you find the West in Africa. What are they doing in Africa? Only because the gold, which is in Mali alone, let alone the one that was discovered last year, 703 tons of gold, which offset the price of the gold in the world, the price market. So what I'm saying here is that some people who might feel that democracy is our way forward, I really want to know, because when you have systems that are being imported, systems that did not derive from your own founding fathers, systems that do not derive from Africanism, and then you are expecting to develop yourself using the rules and the games set by another person which he himself does not use. You see, democracy was instituted as another form to transfer the rule of dictatorship into a form of a system, which is democracy today. And some people who might say that we don't want dictators. Dictators, you have the different definition of dictators. A dictator is someone who knows what is good for his people and then gives to his people and then defend and protect the right of his people by all odds, like what we saw with Gaddafi. That's why they term him as a dictator, because he served the interests of the African people. And those who felt that governments in Africa should be in their interest first before their own people were all termed dictators, including Magufuli. People like Sankara, that was why he was eliminated. But did they not do, today we still mention the legacy in which they have left behind, that Africa still cries out for them, because Africa has always been that place where we always look up to somebody, a good shepherd, someone who knows what is good for his people. We are Africans, we believe in the value of family. And that's why we are not like the West, where a child has no respect for his father, a child has no respect for his mother, because the state owns the child. So there is no form of respect between children and parents. But in Africa, it's different. And so that is why we believe in getting our own system that reflects who we are and that protects our identity. If you talk about, for example, democracy, democracy simply means, demo simply means the people have the power. Kratos simply means the gods control the people. I cited very legitimate examples. We talk of America in 2000 when George Bush stole 450,000 votes. The matter was taken to court. Yet, George Bush was still elected the president in America after stealing 450,000 votes in open broad daylight. So we are talking of America's democracy. There have been over 23 elections being rigged in America alone. This is very important for us to understand why democracy was brought in America. At that period, they had already brought up an economy, built a legacy. They already put a vision in place where the citizens understand where they are going to. So their own election is like a friendly match. But we are talking of Africa, which is underdeveloped. We cannot apply systems of people who have already developed themselves. This is very important. And that's the same thing of Europe. We remember here of our history where King Leopold II of Belgium, who was in control of Congo DRC for over 500 years, killed almost 3 million Africans, chopped up the hands of Africans, direct rule of the foreign powers in Africa. So we understand these things that we are saying, that we right now, judging at the state in which we are, we cannot use democracy for this reason. Let me explain this very well. Democracy is the same principle that I call that takes away the power of the people. Because when you talk about democracy, you are talking about multipartism, which means that the people, the power of the people are all being militated behind minority groups. So we need the masses to form one party, not parties where it creates room for division, where even when somebody is doing the right thing, some other person is opposing what you are doing. That is what democracy in our society today is doing. And that is why democracy is the one that has projected tribalism, nepotism in Africa, civil conflicts, because you are protecting the interest of your party politics and the interest of the one that controls your democracy. We must understand that the United Nations stands as a government of all nations that are under the United Nations. That means that, for example, Cameroon, Mali, those are all federal states under the United Nations. So they believe that they have the final say over your democracy. That is a simple truth. So we call it like leadership in leadership against leadership. As long as we have this foreign interest in Africa or system which does not meet the demands of the people, like she says that she cannot get in a leader that does not require her opinion. If you came to a minority political party, how is it that your opinion becomes the opinion of everybody? We need people to be consolidated under a particular banner, understand where their nation is going through. This is very important, Mr. Ben Louis, else we are not going to emerge. Before democracy got to Africa, we already had 1945, the United Nations, which was set up not to develop Africa, but was to build a united front to give the West a very strong voice, one voice for the West. Now, in the 60s, when Africa came in, the United Nations was not for us. At that point, they saw Africa like the subject matter, the thing that gives them the reason to see how they can exploit Africa. So this is very important for us, that if we do not see that, we need to come together, use systems that works for us, systems that are generated from the spirit of Africanism, because we are not building Europe in Africa. We are not building China in Africa. We are not building the West in Africa. We are building Africa for Africans. So we don't need to compare Africa with the West and what the West is doing. Let us allow the West to keep the West for themselves, and let Africa keep Africa for Africans. Let us apply what is going to work for us. And we are saying that the democracy we are talking of in Mali, when Assimi Goïta took over power in 2013, he promised the people that he was going to resolve the poverty, lack of job, insecurity, corruption, and all of that. But when he came in, it was not the case. The same things which he promised the people, like she was saying, they gave you what you want. They said, we will do this. But he got into power because our level of leadership in democracy is all being monitored at the level of the UN. Mr. Bid Ben Louis, we need to grow leaders from the grassroots that grow with the masses. We need leaders that leap up from the doors of their own people. Leaders that move or grow with their nation. That you build leadership from bottom to top and not from top, where the leaders never know what is happening on ground. When Magufuli was in power, people could see Magufuli on the street just anyhow at any time of the day, because he was somebody who grew up with the people. He knew the suffering of his people. Paul Kagame, you find him on the street, cleaning even the street. He grew up with the people. But what am I simply trying to say? Paul Kagame, was he democratically elected? Today they call him a dictator. But look at what he had. That's the same thing China is doing. What did China do in Hong Kong? That's what, since the president was appointed in 2013, look at where China is today. Nobody is complaining. The strict rules that they have used, they are using their military in building a society that makes China neutral from the rest of the world, and China being its own system and having its own sovereignty. It's all done by the one man who is using the military to give his citizens what he knows is best for them. And this is what we need even in our families. That's why I say we Africans, we believe in the value of family. You cannot tell your father knows what is good for you. This is the kind of leadership, Bid Ben Lewis, we are looking for. We are not saying that dictators are all bad. Dictators are good in most ways whereby they are there for the interest. Every head of a family is a dictator. Every head of a family. In church, elections don't take place. Popes are not elected. CEOs are not elected. Fathers or parents in families are not elected. And all of these organizations work without a problem. The United Nations since 1945 has been surviving with no stress, nobody complaining, because they have kept power and they have denied to allow people to participate or to decide whether who next should share in the veto power or not. And this is what we are trying to say, that we do not need the United Nations. What we need Africans coming together and build their own system whereby by their unity becomes their sovereign right to decide what is good for them. And so to me, all these insecurities that we are talking today in Mali, we all understand that they are there to destabilize the people. And this is done intentionally by the imperialists to give them the reason why they need to be there. As long as the imperialists or the multinationals are in Africa, Africa will never know peace. Africans will run out of Africa. We are talking, and she talks about the democracy. Who do not know that Africa do not own their own economy? Does it not bother any African that we don't even own our own currency? ECOWAS is still negotiating its currency to remove its reserve from the Swiss bank. It's still not yet free. And ECOWAS is imposing on Mali that Mali is trying to fight out a way for its own self-determination. We need to understand that if we as Africans do not understand that the role of the multinationals in Africa is killing the economy and keep bringing a lot of instability in Africa. I gave example here of Ethiopia a bit, Ben Louis. Permit me to say this. There is a treaty that was signed by the American government for 2 decades today, which states that America controls all the natural resources of Ethiopia. And all their companies do not pay tax in Ethiopia. Is that not an economic rape? Tax evasion alone in Ethiopia raises to 2.7% GDP of tax erosion alone from the Americans. Go to South Africa. America owns 600 companies in South Africa. They don't pay tax. When Mandela went to seek for help against the apartheid regime, America supported the apartheid regime to repress the people. Coming to the 14 French colonies, France gets 500 billion CFA every year, and they are talking of giving Sudan 700 million. They are suspended it because of the coup. Who is helping who? Oil discovered in Sudan of recent rated that greater than that of Saudi Arabia. They are here for the natural resources. If we will kill ourselves, that they will do for us to kill ourselves, they will do it. That is why they are here. They are not here for our interest. They are here for the resources, because that is how they grow their own economy. That is how they add value to their own economy. That's how they build their own wealth from what they get from Africa. And paint the picture as if Africa is poor. The only reason why Africans are poor is not because Africans do not have, it's because they don't have access to their own resources in order to develop their own life. Our resources are in the hands of these colonialists. If 85% of your reserve is held by a colonial master, how then will you not borrow? How then will you not look upon the person who has subjected you under slavery? If somebody gives you, he possesses your destination and it determines where you are supposed to go to. We do not want to get involved with the West suggesting to us, because that's an abuse of democracy. If they are talking of democracy, then they should allow us to choose what we want. That's all about freedom of expression, freedom of speech. Let the Assimi Goita, like I still stated a bit, Ben Louis, when Thomas Sankara took over power, who called in for elections? When Gaddafi, NATO entered Libya, break an existing constitution of the United Nations, did not follow the protocol of diplomatic negotiation, killed Gaddafi and 1,200 women and children in Libya. Why did ECOWAS not lay sanctions? Why did AU not lay sanctions? A nation enters a continent, removes a commander, It's just as if the whole of Africa was asleep. Nobody said anything and took him away in the presence of 53 other heads of states, big heads that know how to exercise their own tyranny to those that are beneath them, to support the price of those that are above them. It's a shame. So what we are saying here is that we need the African masses and population to understand that each time we see a good leader, we should learn to start supporting and understanding the vision. We should have that room of an all-inclusive dialogue, because since Goita has been in power, ECOWAS has never said that hold a meeting and explain to your nation what the vision you have for that nation. We're only getting sanctions. We condemn sanctions. We condemn sanctions. As UN is condemning, AU is condemning. If UN does not condemn, AU will not. Each time you hear AU condemn, you'll be getting sanctions from the UN. And so we are tired of all of this. Those arms and ammunition, who brings them here? Where do we have factories producing arms here? The arms, they just appear. When they saw the Frenchman in Central Africa with ammunitions, at that period that Idriss Déby died, Macron left here, came and changed an existing constitution by putting the son of Idriss Déby to power. When the constitution talked about 45 days, power should be. So we are tired. Nobody talks here of democracy at that period that democracy is abused. It's when the Malians want to charter their own future. You are telling them to go back through the democratic way. We don't need civilians in Africa. At this point, we need armed young men and women who are ready to give in their best to develop Africa, and we don't need Africans running out of Africa while the West comes and settles here in Africa with their governments, carry out the resources, go to Congo DRC. How many decades the UN peacekeeping force have been there doing nothing, exploiting the resources of that land? How many years has that country been under civil conflict? Sudan, how many decades for under sanction? Mali, the same. We are tired of this thing now. Big Ben Louis, we should be able to manage ourselves. We can take care of ourselves. Africa has come of age. We can manage ourselves. We don't need help. We don't need help from them.
Thank you, Mr. Atimi Bakot. Now, Mr. Tangyal, Africans at this point in time